more about Southeastern Data Center Incorporated. For our next part of the program, we have a few messages from SEDCI's new partners. Our first set of speakers to talk about the current laws and situation in place.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and we would like to thank. We're very excited to be part of this this amazing endeavor to allow SMEs access to the new technologies and sort of digitize their operations in order for them to streamline their processes. I was given the task of trying to dazzle you for 10 minutes about the exciting world of data privacy. So please bear with me. Some of the slides here are going to be text heavy. So my task is to give you a snapshot of what data privacy is all about. So alam na natin that we're in the digital age, and with digitizing our processes, there are certain risks. And because of certain risks, the government decided to protect our data. And hence, they enacted the Data Privacy Act in 2012. So my task here is to give you a snapshot, as I said, of what this is all about. Okay. Next na. Okay. What exactly is data privacy? So privacy is all about your ability to control your information, right? It gives you the power to tell people and organizations, for example, I want this information to be hidden from people. If you have a Facebook account, you will realize that there is a privacy setting there that tells people what parts of your information are allowed to be shared to people. That's precisely what privacy is all about. You get to have the power to decide which parts of your information will be pronounced or will be publicized to people. Vis-a-vis information security. Information security naman is the obligation of organizations to implement your privacy rights. So for example, Facebook, if you give them your picture and you say that, okay, for this picture, it's only me and my friends who are supposed to see this, the responsibility of Facebook, as insofar as information security is concerned, is to make sure that this actually happens, right? So you have the right to privacy. The organizations that you give your information to has the responsibility for information security. Does that make sense? I hope it does. All right, next. It is the National Privacy Commission that is responsible for the implementation of the Data Privacy Act of 2012. Meron silang power to adjudicate complaints, and they are also a regulatory body that tells organizations their responsibilities and the things that they have to comply with insofar as the law is concerned. Okay, just a few things that are salient about the law. Next. The center of all the privacy discussions is all about personal information. So the definition here is that it refers to any information from which the identity of an individual can be directly ascertained, indirectly or directly. So this could be your name. When you go to a store and apply for a specific service and you sign up, the things that you put in the application form are precisely personal information. And what the Data Privacy Act tries to protect are precisely your personal information. So any information that a company has that directly identifies you as a person, that is considered as personal information. So we have a few examples here, like name, gender, birthday, address, etc. Next. There is also such a thing as sensitive personal information, and the definition of the law says here that these are possibly things that could discriminate a person if the information is somehow publicized without your consent. In terms of penalties, in terms of protecting sensitive information, the person who commits the violations against your right will get higher jail time or mas malaki yung penalties na i-impose sa kanya ng government. So, ito yung examples naman niya. Race, ethnicity, marital status, color, religious beliefs, and philosophical beliefs. So all of these things are also personal information, and all companies that collect data should protect this information as well. Okay. If the target is SMCs, so meron silang mga kliyente, the moment that they gather the information, they become controllers of the information. And this is important because as controllers, these are the institutions that are responsible for protecting this information. So kapag may isang company A, for example, collects your name, address, your bank account number, for example, they become personal information controllers. And in the law, they have the responsibility to comply with the Data Privacy Act. Vis-a-vis personal information processor, ito naman yung mga companies when we outsource some parts of our operations. For example, you have a telco company, for example. We will outsource the billing of our clients. We will give them the information of our clients, and their responsibility is to only use the information to pursue the contractual relationship or the goal of the contract that we entered into. Yun lang yung pwede nyo gawin. But in the eyes of the law, even if I outsource the billing to another company, kung magkaroon ng leak yung information or complaint yung information on the side of the processor, it's still the controller who's going to be responsible. Siya pa rin yung hahabulin ng National Privacy Commission and siya pa rin yung hahabulin ng kliyente. Consent. As we've established kanina, the most important part of data privacy is your ability to control your information. So consent means you have the power to make that decision. It's the freely given, specific, informed indication of will. That you're telling the corporation, okay, please process my information in order for me to get the services that I am buying from you. So there are three things that we want to see when we talk about consent. The first one is it's for legitimate purpose. That the business process that we're doing has to be legitimate, right? So it cannot be illegal. Secondly is in terms of transparency. So when you ask for the consent of your client, pag hiningi namin, for example, yung name ninyo or birthday ninyo, we are transparent insofar as paano namin siya gagamitin. What things we are going to do with your information and who we share the information with as well. And finally, proportionality. So we only collect information, or controllers should only be able to collect information which are relevant to them. We're not supposed to collect information that we're not gonna really use. Yun lang yung sinasabi ng proportionality. So, we all have the right to say no to any controller that processes our information if we feel that there are certain parts of our information na hindi natin gustong i-publicize. The law gives us the right to say no to these companies, to tell them, wait, maybe I don't want you to process my information like this, or I don't want you to share my information like this. We have the right. Next. Okay. The data owner, as I said, is also the data controller. He is accountable for the protection of the data. Later, my colleague will be discussing a little bit more about how information security, or where information security is right now in the Philippines. So next. This is the data life cycle. this is how the data is, this is the journey, of your data. For example, nagbigay kayo ng data sa isang corporation, ito yung mga bagay na dinadaanan niya. So it starts with collection, co-collect nila yung information, and then they will allow certain employees who have authority to access that information in order for them to produce the service that you wanted or you bought. And secondly, we use that information for the processing, and then we store the information somewhere. Specifically, sa technology right now is in the cloud. That's where we store the information. And then, while we retain the information for a certain amount of time lang, hindi pwedeng beyond. And if necessary, if we have to transfer the information, that's also part of it. And when the client says, ayoko na na-store niyo yung information ko, he has the right to say, please dispose of my information. So ito yung sa life cycle. Next. Okay. This is the part that makes people a little wary because the law gives us penalties and a part of it is going to jail if we misuse the information. And this is also the teeth of the law because kung walang penalty, walang impetus yung companies to comply with data privacy. So the first one is unauthorized processing of personal information. So as we said, you give consent to corporations and all other companies to process your information. Now, the only time they can process your information is if you give consent specific to that processing. Anything beyond that, that's a violation already. Secondly, is yung accessing information for unauthorized use. So, just because the company has it doesn't mean that everyone in the company can access your information. Only specific people whose role is relevant to the service that you bought, sila lang dapat yung mag-access. The third one is unauthorized disposal. When you delete information without authority from the owner, or when you leave it somewhere, halimbawa yung application form na pinirmahan ninyo, and then you dispose it improperly, that's a violation under the law. Number 4 is processing information for unauthorized purposes. Can you guys read it? Medyo malabo siya, sorry. So, para siyang similar sa una, but this time, I have the power to process it, but that has to be limited dun lang sa purpose na kailangan. The fifth one is unauthorized access. This is, if you're familiar with hacking, this is where hacking is going to be penalized. So if you hack certain processing systems, that's also penalized under the law. For example, number 6, if a corporation realizes that there is breach to their storage facility and they didn't report it to the National Privacy Commission, that creates another liability. Number 7 is when you have information and you maliciously disclose this to another person without authority, that is a violation as well. And finally, whatever is not related to number 7, everything else, when you disclose information without authorization from the owner of that information, again, that's a violation. So there are varying penalties here. It ranges from, I think, 500,000 to about 6 million pesos per violation. And the jail time is about 6 months to, I think, 6 years, depending on the gravity of the violation. Okay. And finally, of course, I think this is the last slide. Corporations are mandated to report to the National Privacy Commission if ever there are data breaches in their storage and their processing, etc. See? Very exciting, right? I think this is the last slide insofar as data privacy is concerned. I'd like now to call on my colleague, Ms. Grace, to continue the discussion. Thank you.
Thanks, Abel, and good afternoon, everybody. It's nice to be invited to such a great event. My name is Grace Anduiza, and I'm your head for Managed Services and Solutions of Globe My Business. Moving on. We're here to talk about cloud infrastructure and to support whatever you presented earlier. Now, cloud is becoming more and more important. Why? Nakita mo, cost